Hi, I'm Courtney with Ginger Knots. Today I want to show you how to make this knit-like scarf. It does look knit, however it is crochet. This uses just one stitch throughout. Any level of crochet skill could make this scarf, so let's get into it. To make this scarf, you'll just need a couple things. So firstly, the yarn, of course. You'll need at least 2 balls of any size 5 yarn. This is Loops and Threads Charisma, and for the hook, you'll need a larger size than what the pattern calls for. I'm using 11.5mm or pea size hook. The reason for that is when you make this, you want the holes to be a little bit more loose, bigger, so it has a more drapey feel. So when you look at the yarn ball and it calls for a size L, this is much bigger than what that calls for, but that's on purpose. I'm going to do a very beginner level tutorial on this. So I'm going to take it very, very slow. If you are already very practiced, you can speed it up. So this is what the scarf length looks like. This is about 200 stitches. I won't be making 200 stitch length in this video. I'm only going to do a short section so you can see how to turn your work to make these kind of rows. So I'm going to pull this out of here and start by tying a slip knot. So to tie a slip knot, you're going to bend your yarn, cross it over itself, and then you're going to pull the long working end through this little circle we just made. So lots of ways you can do that. That is just an easy way to do it. I like to leave a bit of a long tail because I want to be able to weave it in at the end. So again, I'm using 11.5mm crochet hook. I'll pop that loop on my hook and tighten it, and I'm going to begin chaining. Now, I like to hold my yarn through my fingers like that, but some of my crochet students like to do it like that. Lots of different ways you can do it. You just find whatever works for you. But what's really important is your tension. So you'll want to pinch this little knot here and make sure that your working yarn has a little bit of bounce to it. If it's super tight, your stitches are going to be super tight, and then you are going to probably leave a nasty comment here because this will be a very frustrating project. So let's start by chaining. So to chain, you're going to wrap the yarn over the nose of the hook, turn your hook down, and then pull down on that knot and slide it through. This project in particular, you're going to want to be somewhat loose with your chains, because the starting chain could end up being too tight and make your scarf kind of squirrely and have a bend to it. But also in particular for this project, anytime you're using something that is mostly slip stitches, tightness is not what you want. So this scarf in particular is made with half double crochet slip stitches. So I've chained several chains here. Again, you're going to want to chain about 200. If you don't want to count to 200, you could just go as long as 8 feet or something like that. So it's the length that you want your scarf to be. So I'm going to stop here since I'm just making a sample. You're going to want to start by crocheting into the second chain from your hook. So you can see that there is a loop here right next to the one on my hook. You're going to want to work into the second chain from your hook. To do that, I'm going to find the spot I want to go into. First, I'm going to yarn over. So I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook just like I did when I chained, except I'm going to leave it there. When I turn my nose down to put it in that space, you can see now it's got that line on there. So I'm going to push my hook through the space, wrap my yarn, or yarn over, wrap my yarn under the nose of the hook so that I can pull it back through and up. So I have 3 lines on my hook, and something that helps, especially when you're using an inline hook for this project, is to go ahead and push all 3 lines onto the fattest part of the hook. So the body of the hook is where you want that to be. Because if you don't, this could end up being too tight here, and again, you will have a lot of 4-letter words when you use this project. In a normal half double crochet, you would then yarn over again here, but you're not going to do that. This is a slip stitch. So this loop that you just pulled up, you're going to pull through these 2. And I'm just looking at my nails on the screen and they look ridiculous, but that's all right. You're going to slide your nose, grab that first loop and pull it down and through both loops on your hook. Now that is a half double crochet slip stitch. You'll do that all the way down. So grab your yarn, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, make sure it's a nice tall loop, and then pull it through the 2 on there. So keep doing that all the way down. Again, making sure that you are keeping your tension relaxed. Normally I say do whatever tension makes your work feel the best, because as long as your tension is consistent, your project will end up looking good. But here I would say be a little more relaxed than you would normally be. Pull up bigger loops than you would if you were making something with structure like a purse or a stuffed animal. We want this to be nice and relaxed. So I've made it all the way down. If you're making the full scarf here, which of course I hope you are, you're going to take much longer. That is what our first row looks like, and because we did really loose starting chains, it is stretchy enough that it's not going to be stiff. We'll chain up 1, turn our work, and you can see on the back side there are little V's, and then if you turn it on the top side, there are also little V's. So this is where a lot of people get really confused with, and I should have used a different color yarn. It's easy to see these back V's and think that those 2 are these 2. So make sure when you go to work into your stitches, you're actually working on the top of the stitch and not the back. And the reason for that, and that's what makes the scarf look knit-like, is leaving these 2 alone and only working into this back space here is what's going to give us that cool texture. So turn your work, look at the top, and we're going to work into the back loop only. So right away, we're going to find that back loop, and we're going to repeat that same process throughout the rest of the scarf. Yarn over, insert into the back loop only, yarn over again, pull up a loop, make sure it's got nice and loose tension, and pull that through those 2. So you're going to find the back loop, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull it through. So you'll work that all the way down. I used a blooming gel to make my nails do this. I wanted them to have a tie-dye look, but as you can see, I did not do that great of a job, so I've got to probably redo those in a couple of days. Yarn over, insert into the back loop only, pull up a loop, and pull through the other 2 on your hook. And right away, even just after doing the second row, you can already start to see that texture. So you can see I've gotten to what might look like the end, but I'm still missing a stitch. And this is where some people on my other platforms got into some trouble with this, is by missing that last stitch here. So you can see it there. I like to work into both. Otherwise, the ends of your scarf can get too stretchy. So instead of just working into the back loop here, I'm going to work into both loops. So yarn over, insert into both loops, pull up a loop, and pull through both. Now, something you can do too to help you recognize where your ends are is to use stitch markers. I personally am notoriously bad at stitch markers, but for this purpose, I'm going to use them just to show you where to put them. So you'll chain up again here, you'll turn your work, and you're going to work again into the back loop only. So we'll do a stitch here. And that stitch, those loops that we just made right there, we're going to need to mark those, and that'll help us remember where that is. So I'm going to put it under both loops. You can use anything. If you don't have stitch markers, that's okay. I use spare yarn, scraps more than I actually use stitch markers in my projects because I tend to lose them. So go ahead and continue working down. And I'll show you, I'll do it quickly just so I can show you what it looks like when you come back. Again, remembering to stay pretty loose. You'll see I'm not shoving my hook all the way onto it to the big part. I'm kind of staying on the neck. That's okay as long as you pull your loops up tall enough. So if you don't want to slide all of your loops onto the big part of your hook, just make sure that you're using a loose enough tension. Okay, I've reached the end again, so I'm going to work under both, and I can put a stitch marker here on this end too if I'd like. Chain up, turn my work, and then work into the back loop only. And then I can place my other stitch marker. Look at me, I'm telling you how to do it the right way. Normally I don't use stitch markers, and I did a tutorial video and missed a stitch. So it's very easy to do. Don't feel bad if you do it, because anybody can. Some of these projects are a little tough to see where the end stitches are. So you can see I'm now working back again. This is, I think, my 4th row. And I'll show you in just a sec where my stitch marker ended up. So I've worked to the end again, and it could look like it's done. If I didn't have that stitch marker there, I could easily be tricked into not working that last stitch. So you can see right here is my stitch marker in the 2 stitches that I want to work. I'm going to take that out. It would get very obvious eventually as I do more and more rows that I'm starting to not have as many stitches. So it will get obvious, but you could see that would have been really easy for me to miss. You can also see, now that we've done a couple of rows, how it ends up looking like brioche knit, which is one of my favorite style of knitting. It has those V textures and space in between them. So you would go ahead and place that stitch marker and keep on going. For my scarf that I showed, I worked as many rows as I had yarn for. You can see here that I worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 rows. So keep working those stitches back and forth like that until the scarf is as wide as you'd like it to be. And then you're done. You would end by cutting your yarn and weaving in the ends. If you want a tutorial on how to do that, please leave that in my comments. But this is a lovely beginner-friendly scarf.